What's up, everybody? It's the Benchwarmers, and today we're going to be reviewing and reacting to the series we just finished, the Sixers versus the Hawks. Now, this is a very exciting series for what we thought would not be that exciting of a series. There were originally some injury concerns with Joel Embiid, but he actually played every single game in this series. But it actually didn't go in the Sixers' favor like we predicted. It went to the Hawks, and reacting to this quite crazy series and this, in fact, choke by the Sixers, who were the number one seed. We're going to react to it today. So without further ado, let's get right to it.
All right, so I'll start with the reactions and I'll just sort of give an overview of Game 7. But before I do that, I just want to say that this was a very well-deserved win for the Hawks, and the Sixers totally deserved to lose this one with all of the mistakes and all of the mishaps that they did. So congrats to the Hawks and all the Hawks fans for finally making it to very late in the playoffs. It must be very exciting. So just to go over Game 7, it was mostly back and forth, and there are many lead changes. And with the 76ers, they had 17 turnovers, which was 7 more than the Hawks, and 8 of them came from Embiid. And I think this is actually Embiid's second game with at least 8 turnovers, which is a record since like 1985 for a playoffs game. And Ben Simmons only had 5 points, which was very, very bad for the 76ers, who really needed an offensive boost after key players like Tobias Harris were only shooting 33% from the field. But I would say overall, Embiid and Seth Curry played pretty well offensively, excluding Embiid's turnovers. They both shot around 50% and had around 20 to 30 points. But I think what lost the Sixers the game was all the technical mistakes that they made. They had a lot of turnovers. They had like a lot of mismatches that they weren't correcting, like Herder on Curry, or sorry, Curry and Herder. And their fourth quarter was just pretty sloppy overall, such as Matisse Thybulle just fouling Herder on a three-point shot that he was not going to make. But then if you look at the Hawks, it was actually pretty interesting because Trae Young only shot 22% from the field, and I think this was one of the worst first quarters of his career where he shot 1 for 14. But towards the end of the game, he was making clutch baskets like that 30-foot three pointer that ultimately gave them a 6-point lead. And Kevin Herter had 27 points and led the offense and really showed up. And the Hawks defense was actually decent considering they're one of the worst teams defensively. They held the Sixers to around 100 points these past 4 games. So it's actually very impressive for the Hawks that even with Trae Young playing so poorly, they're able to pull through and beat the 76ers. So I'm really excited for the Hawks versus Bucks matchup. I still have the Bucks on this one, but I'm even more excited because I think the Hawks will put up a good fight.
So with that said, we need to talk about the loser of the series, the 76ers, the overwhelming favorite to win. With a healthy Joel Embiid, I think we all agreed it should be Sixers in 5, if not 4. But they ended up losing in 7 in what is probably one of the biggest upsets in the series ever. This is the Hawks' first time in the playoffs, and literally no one in their starting lineup has made it to the conference finals like almost ever, except for Clint Capella. And like Danilo Gallinari last year, like only in the first round. So like they don't have much playoff experience. And the Philadelphia 76ers have been through it all. They've been to the second round a couple times. They were to the first round last year, but they weren't healthy because they had injured players. And I think ultimately what this comes down to is it needs a fundamental change in the culture of the 76ers. I thought that had happened with Doc Rivers being hired. Doc Rivers is a good coach, as much hate as he gets, as he had gotten on the Clippers, but it just didn't work out. The Sixers, it's really hard to poke holes in what they do. They're a great offensive team. They have one of the best passers in the game, Ben Simmons. They have amazing three-point shooters like Seth Curry. They have good players who can create their own shot like Tobias Harris, and they have a dominant, in my opinion, the best center in the game, Joel Embiid. And they have a good bench. On defense, they have Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid, arguably 3 of the top 10 defensive players in the league. And in my opinion, Matisse Thybulle is the most underrated defensive player in the NBA, even though he was on second defensive team this year. It's really hard to poke a hole in what the Sixers are doing wrong. Ultimately, it just comes down to confidence, leadership, and overall the culture of the area. If they have a drive to win it, they can easily be championship favorites or championship contenders at least. And this year is a terrible like failure for them. What they need to do ultimately is improve free throw shooting. Free throw shooting was a pretty big issue, especially with Ben Simmons. Make Ben Simmons shoot 1,000 free throws every day for the offseason. Put pressure on him to start making his free throws. Because literally a team can foul him every single possession. He shoots 30 something percent from the line. It's 0.6 points per possession, which is lower than the league average of 1.06 to 1.1 points per possession per team. So he needs that percentage to go at least in the 60% or higher, which isn't a very high bar for a guard. And also, I think one other thing which they can do is create roles on this team. Like, there's a bunch of talent on this team, but I don't think there's a clear leader. There's not much roles. And I don't know if the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid pairing will work, and the Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris pairing will work for the long term. They either need to improve and get more teamwork. They need to be much more on the same page like the Atlanta Hawks were, or they need to blow it up.
Yeah, I agree. This team definitely needs a leader. And maybe it's not making a current player a leader. Maybe it's just going out and getting a veteran to be that leader for them. But we'll see how they approach that in the offseason. But I'm going to talk about what the Hawks are looking like moving forward. And they have a very, very difficult series against the Bucks coming up. As much as I love the Hawks and I love what Nate McMillan's done for them, stepping in as the interim head coach, I do think that this is the end for them. There's no real way to really get past this Bucks defense for the Hawks. The only way I see the Hawks really scoring efficiently at all is if they just fully commit to the 3-point shot and play a team that's like 5 3-point shooters with like Gallo and John Collins playing the 4 and the 5. But like, even if they do that, then that would create so many more problems on defense, because that would have to exclude Clint Capella, who is their best defender by far. And even with Clint Capella on the floor, there's really no stopping the Bucks offense either, because they can stretch the floor so well with players like Brook Lopez at the 5. Like Clint Capella's, he's great in the paint, but he can't really defend the 3-point shot very well, obviously. So just the Bucks have that amazing combination of both offense and defense that I think is going to really, really cause a lot of problems for the Hawks. So the only approach that the Hawks really have is just put the ball in Trae Young's hands and hope for the best. And we've seen him create magic both in the Knicks and Sixers series, and there's just a slim chance that he may be able to do it again in the Bucks series as well. So I'm hoping for the best for the Hawks, but I really don't think that they stand much chance against the Bucks. With that being said, that is the end of this Hawks versus Sixers review. This is the Benchwarmers signing out. See ya.